Eden Prime was a jewel among the stars. Its bright blue ocean stretched for thousands of miles, and its cities were marvels of human engineering. The colony had been built with care, not just as a place to live, but as a symbol of what humanity could achieve when it worked together. Scientists, engineers, and settlers had poured decades of effort into the planet, and for a while, it seemed as though nothing could go wrong. Commander Alina Rourke, one of the youngest leaders in the Eden Prime Security Council, stood on the observation deck of the central tower, staring at the horizon. Children played in parks, and adults went about their work with quiet purpose. For the first time in her career, she felt a deep sense of peace. Eden Prime was not just a colony. It was a home. That peace ended in an instant. The first warning came as a flicker on the communication screens. Unidentified ships appeared at the edge of the system. At first, they were assumed to be traders or explorers. But their numbers grew too quickly. Thousands of alien warships moved in tight formations, cutting off escape routes. Eden Prime's sensors were overwhelmed. The aliens were fast, precise, and relentless. "They're here," Alina whispered, her voice tight with tension. She felt a cold wave of fear pass through her, but she refused to show it. She turned to her team. "Sound the alarms. Evacuate the colonies closest to the landing zones. Alert every defense fleet." But it was too late. The Xylar Collective, a merciless alien empire known across the galaxy for crushing entire civilizations, had arrived. Their ships fired with terrifying accuracy. Explosions ripped through the skies of Eden Prime, leveling entire cities in seconds. Alina watched as communications from distant outposts went dark one by one. She felt a knot of helplessness tighten in her chest. This was no ordinary attack. This was a massacre. The people of Eden Prime tried to fight back. Defense turrets launched volleys of energy beams, and small fleets of human ships rushed to intercept the invaders. But the Xylar were prepared. They anticipated every human move, destroying fleets before they could even reach the main alien forces. Panic spread. Families ran through the streets trying to reach shelters, but the Xylar strikes were everywhere. Alina's heart ached as she issued orders to save as many lives as possible. Prioritize civilian evacuation. Focus on survival. She watched the colony's transport ships scramble to leave the planet. Many made it into orbit, but thousands never reached the safety of the fleet. Eden Prime was burning for hours. The attack continued. By the time it ended, almost half of the colony's population was gone. Entire cities had vanished. The Xylar did not linger. Their ships disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived, leaving a shattered world behind. The silence that followed was deafening. On Earth, the news arrived like a thunderclap. Television screens, holographic displays, and communication channels were filled with reports of the massacre. Leaders called emergency meetings. Citizens gathered in streets, stunned and enraged. Humanity had been hit where it was most vulnerable, and the shock turned quickly into determination. In the halls of the United Earth Council, Alina's voice rang out as she recounted the events from Eden Prime. "We cannot let this go unanswered. Our colonies, our people, our families, this is our line in the sand. We will not be victims." Her words resonated with every listener. Humanity was angry, yes, but more than that, they were united. Scientists and engineers began working day and night. Shipyards across the solar system switched from research to military production. Every available vessel was upgraded. Weapons, shields, engines, nothing was left to chance. Humanity's greatest minds collaborated on strategies that combined courage, creativity, and technology. Even ordinary citizens contributed, offering resources, designs, and manpower. Meanwhile, Alina Rourke prepared a council to oversee the response. She selected skilled leaders from across the colonies, people known for bravery and clever thinking. They trained tirelessly, learning new tactics, running simulations, and studying every detail of the Xylar attacks. Humanity was no longer just reacting. They were planning a response that would be unmatched in the history of the galaxy. At night, Alina would look at the stars and remember the faces of those she had lost on Eden Prime. Children she had met, friends who had served beside her, families she had known, gone. She clenched her fists. The grief was deep, but it became fuel. Every tear, every memory became a promise. Humanity would rise. Humanity would fight back. The massacre of Eden Prime had ended, but the story was far from over. Across the stars, humans were preparing for something no one had ever seen before, a force unlike any alien empire could imagine. A force built not just on technology, but on ingenuity. determination, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. And soon, that force would awaken. After the massacre of Eden Prime, humanity's grief quickly turned into action. Across the stars, every colony, every space station, and every planet under human control mobilized. Shipyards roared with activity, engines blazed, and the hum of construction filled the skies. Humanity had never built anything like this before. Not just a fleet, but a fleet of 500,000 warships, a force so vast that it could challenge any enemy in the galaxy. Commander Alina Rourke stood in the largest spaceport on Earth, surrounded by leaders from every sector. The room was alive with energy, yet tense with the memory of what had been lost. Alina's eyes scanned the holographic displays of star systems and production lines. Ships of all sizes moved in simulated patterns. Fighters, cruisers, battleships, carriers, all being built at a speed that even she had not imagined possible. "We don't just build weapons," Alina said, addressing the council. "We build hope. Every ship, every turret, every pilot trained and ready is a message. Humanity will not be broken. Humanity will not bow." Her words inspired every engineer and commander in the room. Scientists who had spent their lives on peaceful exploration suddenly found themselves designing new energy shields, faster engines, and powerful weapons. Artificial intelligence systems were programmed to coordinate massive fleets, allowing thousands of ships to move together as if guided by a single mind. On Mars, asteroid colonies sent raw materials to the main shipyards. On Jupiter's moons, research teams developed advanced targeting systems. Even distant colonies on the edge of human-controlled space contributed, sending pilots and equipment. Humanity had become a single unified force, working together to protect what they had built. Among the new leaders emerging was Lieutenant Kai Duran, a strategist known for thinking outside the box. He and Alina worked closely, planning fleet formations and strategies for combat. Unlike the aliens who relied on predictable tactics, humans would use creativity, adaptability, and surprise to their advantage. Every simulation they ran showed that humans, despite being smaller in number at first, could outmaneuver the Xylar using intelligence and courage. As the fleets grew, so did the training. Millions of pilots and soldiers drilled tirelessly. Humans practiced maneuvers that no one had thought possible, coordinating thousands of ships at once, creating decoy formations, and simulating multi-directional attacks across entire star systems. Even civilians who joined the fleet were trained in engineering, emergency repairs, and support roles. Every person had a part to play, and every part mattered. Meanwhile, the Xylar Collective did not stay idle. They monitored human activity and assumed that fear and loss would slow humanity down. But they were wrong. Every plan they made to intercept human forces failed. Humanity's ingenuity, speed, and ability to adapt made them unpredictable. For every move the Xylar made, humans had already prepared 3 possible counters. Alina walked through the shipyards daily, checking on progress and boosting morale. She met workers covered in oil, engineers hunched over blueprints, and pilots practicing in zero-gravity simulators. She listened to their stories, parents who had lost children, friends who had lost partners, but she never let them lose hope. "We honor them," she said, "not with words but with action. Every ship we launch carries their memory, their courage, and their dreams." In orbit around Earth, massive fleet formations began to take shape. Tens of thousands of ships moved in precise patterns, engines glowing like stars in the dark void. Communication networks linked every vessel, CR, eating a web of coordination that no alien could disrupt. The armada was immense, stretching farther than any human had ever seen. Yet every ship was ready to fight. Humanity also learned to use its strengths differently. Small, agile ships carried out scouting missions, gathering intelligence while avoiding enemy detection. Larger warships, armed with energy cannons and missile arrays, waited in the shadows to strike when the time was right. Humans combined speed, precision, and creativity to create strategies that were unpredictable, unlike the rigid tactics of the Xylar. As months passed, the fleet neared completion. Public broadcasts from Earth showed holograms of the massive armada, inspiring hope across the colonies. Children watched with wide eyes, dreaming of the day they could serve and defend their people. Citizens felt pride swelling in their hearts. Humanity had taken a tragedy and turned it into strength. The pain of Eden Prime became a fuel that would push them to the stars. Finally, the day came when Alina stood on the bridge of the first flagship to leave orbit. The armada stretched behind her like a river of light, each ship carrying thousands of trained personnel, advanced technology, and unyielding courage. She looked at the horizon, knowing the Xylar were waiting somewhere in the darkness. Today, she said to her crew, we show them what it means to challenge humanity, not just with weapons, but with spirit, with courage, and with intelligence. We fight not only for ourselves, but for everyone who has been wronged. We fight for Eden Prime. The engines roared and the flagship moved forward. Behind it, the entire human armada followed, a tide of steel and fire stretching across the stars. Humanity had assembled its greatest force ever, and the galaxy would soon remember that the species it had underestimated was far stronger than anyone imagined. And so, the humans prepared to take the first step toward revenge, justice, and glory. The massacre of Eden Prime would not be forgotten. It had forged a new resolve, one that would push humanity to heights no alien empire could imagine. The human armada moved silently through the void of space. Millions of crew members aboard hundreds of thousands of ships waited for the signal. For months, humanity had prepared for this moment, the first strike against the Xylar Collective, the empire that had destroyed Eden Prime. Every weapon, every shield, every ship had been tested, trained, and perfected. Now it was time. Commander Alina Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, watching the holographic display of the Xylar system. Thousands of enemy ships were stationed around key planets, guarding their resources and population. Their formations were tight, their weapons deadly. But humans had learned from their mistakes. They would not attack like the predictable patterns of old. They would be clever, fast, and unpredictable. Lieutenant Duran, Alina said, turning to the young strategist, give the order. Let's show them what humanity can do. Kai Duran nodded. His fingers danced over the control panel, sending commands to the fleet. Thousands of ships split into smaller groups, each moving silently along separate warp paths. Scouts flew ahead, invisible to enemy sensors, gathering intelligence. Human pilots gripped their controls tightly, hearts racing. They were nervous, yes, but they were ready. They had trained for this moment. The first explosions erupted near Xylar Station 9. Small, agile human ships darted in and out of the shadows, launching precision strikes that disabled enemy communications and defense turrets. The Xylar were shocked. Their sensors could not track the sudden, coordinated attacks. They tried to respond, but the humans were already gone, reappearing in another location, striking again and again. Alina watched the battle unfold on the main screen. Focus on mobility, she instructed. Force them to chase us, spread them thin, and take control of their formations. The human armada was not the largest, but it was the smartest. Ships worked together like a single organism, guided by AI systems and human coordination. Larger battleships unleashed waves of energy beams, while smaller fighters flanked the enemy from multiple directions. Missiles launched from hidden positions hit key Xylar command ships, creating chaos in their ranks. Amid the battle, Alina received reports from the front lines. A small human fleet had intercepted a massive Xylar supply convoy near Zeta Prime. Using clever deception, the humans tricked the enemy into thinking they were retreating. Then, in a sudden burst, they turned and struck with overwhelming force. The convoy was destroyed, and the humans captured vital intelligence about Xylar operations. The Xylar commanders, who had once believed humans were weak and predictable, began to panic. They tried to regroup, but human strategies were unlike anything they had faced. Humans adapted in real time, shifting formations, rerouting fleets, and exploiting every weakness. Every plan the Xylar made was countered with precision. During the battle, a human fighter pilot named Miratal became a hero. Her small ship darted through the chaos, disabling a Xylar energy cannon that threatened to destroy an entire human battalion. Mira's courage inspired others. Every human ship seemed to fight with a spark of creativity and daring that the Xylar could not understand. It was not just technology that won the day. It was spirit, ingenuity, and determination. By the time the first strike ended, humans had reclaimed several key systems. Xylar losses were significant and their morale was shaken. Even minor human victories had a profound effect, showing that humanity could fight back and win against impossible odds. Alina looked at her fleet, exhausted but proud. This is only the beginning, she said quietly. We have shown them that humans are not easily defeated. They will learn, but we will adapt faster, and we will never stop until Eden Prime is avenged. Across the human-controlled regions, news of the strike spread quickly. Citizens celebrated small victories, sending messages of hope and encouragement to soldiers in space. Families who had feared humanity was helpless now knew the truth. Humans could rise, fight, and protect their own. Meanwhile, the Xylar regrouped. Their leaders were furious and confused. They had expected humans to cower, to beg, or to surrender. Instead, humanity had struck with precision, intelligence, and bravery. The alien empire realized they had underestimated a species they thought was weak, and underestimation was a mistake they would pay for. The first strike had been successful, but Alina knew the road ahead would be long and dangerous. The Xylar still held vast territories, and humanity had to remain vigilant. Every victory now was a step toward revenge and justice, but every battle would test courage, strategy, and endurance. As the human fleet set course for the next Xylar stronghold, Alina gazed at the stars. The darkness of space was vast, but humanity's resolve was brighter. Eden Prime's memory burned in every heart. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, but now they were rising, stronger than ever. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans do not forgive easily, and they never forget. Months had passed since humanity launched its first strike against the Xylar. The victories, though costly, had inspired every human colony across the galaxy. Messages of courage and determination spread from planet to planet, reaching even the farthest outposts. Humanity was no longer the hunted, it was becoming a predator. Commander Alina Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, her gaze fixed on the massive Xylar home sector that appeared on the holographic display. Thousands of enemy ships were gathered, defending the heart of their empire. The Xylar knew the humans were coming, and they had prepared their best generals, their largest warships, and their deadliest weapons. Alina turned to Lieutenant Kai Duran, her tactical advisor. They've consolidated everything. This will be the toughest battle yet. We cannot fail, not now, Kai nodded. Our advantage is speed and surprise. We cannot match them in raw numbers here, but we can outsmart them. We've prepared for this. The plan was daring. Instead of a single direct attack, humans would employ multi-dimensional warp strikes. Groups of ships would enter the Xylar sector from different points almost simultaneously, appearing unpredictably across the battlefield. Each strike group would target key command structures, communication hubs, and energy grids, creating confusion and chaos. Alina walked through the fleet, addressing the crew. Her voice was calm but firm. We are not just attacking ships. We are attacking their confidence. Every Xylar commander must feel that humans cannot be predicted, cannot be stopped, and will never surrender. Fight smart, fight together, and remember why we fight. For Eden Prime, for every life they have taken, for every dream they have tried to destroy. The engines roared as the fleet began its approach. Human ships moved in precise formations, guided by artificial intelligence but controlled by human intuition. Scouts darted ahead to gather information, and decoy ships ran feints to lure Xylar forces out of position. The first strike group appeared suddenly near Vorath Station, a massive Xylar outpost. Energy cannons fired, but the human ships had already anticipated the patterns. They dodged, weaved, and returned fire with precision. In minutes, the outpost's defenses were crippled, its energy grid destabilized. Human ships moved on before the Xylar could regroup. At the same time, a second group warped into the sector near Zira Prime, another key world. Large Xylar battleships rushed to intercept, only to find themselves trapped by coordinated flanking maneuvers. Missiles streaked across space, energy beams flared, and explosions lit up the darkness. Human ingenuity shone in every strike. Small, agile ships disabled giant warships, using tactics that the Xylar could not predict. Alina monitored the progress, noting every success and every setback. One human cruiser was damaged during a surprise attack, but repair drones worked quickly to restore it to fighting condition. Keep moving, she instructed. Never give them time to recover. The Xylar commanders, frustrated and confused, struggled to respond. Their rigid strategies, once effective against predictable enemies, were useless against humans who adapted constantly. Every time the Xylar shifted their fleets, humans had already anticipated the move, striking elsewhere and causing further disorder. In the middle of the chaos, heroism emerged again. Pilot Miratal, whose daring had turned the tide in the first strike, led a squadron that disabled a massive energy cannon capable of destroying dozens of human ships. Her team moved with coordination, bravery, and skill, proving that even small groups could achieve great victories. As the battle raged, Alina realized the true power of humanity was not in their numbers or weapons, it was in their spirit. Humans thought creatively, adapted to every situation, and fought for a cause that gave them strength beyond technology. They were unpredictable, unyielding, and unstoppable when united. Hours turned into days. The Xylar home sector was in chaos. Key planets had been struck, outposts disabled, and communications disrupted. The alien empire's defenses were failing, and their morale was crumbling. They had faced humans before, but never like this. A species that refused to be defeated. A species that could turn tragedy into strategy, grief into strength. Finally, the fleet paused to regroup near the outskirts of the Xylar capital. Alina looked at the stars and thought of Eden Prime, the colony that had been lost but had sparked a force no enemy could ignore. She turned to her crew and said, "We've done what no one believed we could, but the final challenge awaits. Ahead lies their homeworld. Ahead lies the reckoning." The crew felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The final battle would be the hardest they had faced. Every strategy, every weapon, every life would matter. Humanity had come far, but the greatest test was still ahead. Alina's voice echoed across the flagship. "Prepare for the final assault. Humanity fights as one. We will show the galaxy that when we rise, no empire can stand against us." The fleet moved forward. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but the resolve of humanity burned brighter than any light in the galaxy. The Xylar homeworld waited, but it would soon learn the true meaning of human courage, ingenuity, and determination. And the story of Eden Prime's massacre was about to reach its final chapter. The Xylar homeworld loomed ahead, a dark planet surrounded by thousands of warships. Its defenses were formidable, and every commander of the alien empire had gathered their forces for one final stand. But humanity had something the Xylar could not predict: resolve, creativity, and the unbreakable spirit born from loss. Commander Alina Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, her gaze fixed on the vast battlefield. Behind her, the human armada stretched across space like a river of fire and steel. 500,000 warships, each crewed by humans who had trained, fought, and sacrificed for this moment. "Today," Alina said, her voice steady, "we fight not only for victory, but for every life the Xylar have taken. Eden Prime will be remembered and justice will be done." "Move out," the fleet advanced. Energy shields flared as the first human ships engaged the Xylar outer defenses. Massive battleships fired volleys of energy beams while agile fighters weaved through enemy formations, disabling weapons and creating openings. The Xylar responded with ferocity, but humans had prepared for every move. Lieutenant Kai Duran coordinated the strikes, his fingers moving across the control panels with precision. "Focus on their command structures first," he instructed. "We disable their communication, and their fleet becomes blind." The first human strike group warped into position near the Xylar command station. Using a combination of hacking drones and precise attacks, they knocked out shields and destroyed the main energy grid. Chaos erupted as Xylar ships struggled to respond without orders. Meanwhile, human forces attacked from multiple directions, forcing the aliens to split their defenses and exposing vulnerabilities. Amid the battle, small acts of courage changed the tide. Pilot Miratal, known for her daring strikes, led a squadron into the heart of the enemy fleet. They disabled the Xylar flagship's energy cannon, a weapon capable of annihilating dozens of human ships at once. Her team moved with skill, bravery, and perfect timing, proving that even the smallest human crews could achieve great victories. On the surface of the Xylar homeworld, orbital bombardments began. Human engineers had designed weapons that targeted energy factories, supply depots, and defensive turrets with unmatched precision. Explosions shook the planet, leaving the Xylar scrambling to protect their cities and military bases. Humanity's assault was relentless. Hours passed, but Alina and her commanders did not waver. Every move, every decision was carefully planned yet flexible. Human ships adapted to enemy counterattacks, using speed, surprise, and ingenuity to stay ahead. The Xylar, once confident in their superiority, were now disoriented. Their formations collapsed and their morale sank as humans pressed forward with unstoppable momentum. As the battle reached its climax, Alina gave the order for the final strike. Hundreds of thousands of warships unleashed volleys of missiles, energy beams, and coordinated attacks simultaneously. The Xylar homeworld shook as city after city was liberated from alien control. Ships that once seemed invincible were destroyed or disabled. The alien empire that had massacred Eden Prime was crumbling under the ingenuity and courage of humanity. Finally, the last Xylar flagship fell. Its destruction marked the end of organized resistance. Human fleets moved to secure remaining systems, ensuring that the Xylar could never rebuild. Across the galaxy, oppressed species cheered as news of humanity's victory spread. The humans who had once been victims were now liberators and heroes. Alina stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes reflecting the brilliance of the stars and the burning energy of the Xylar homeworld below. She remembered Eden Prime, the families, the children, the friends lost, and yet she felt hope. Humanity had endured, had fought back, and had won. Humanity has proven itself, she said quietly to her crew. We are more than survivors. We are protectors, innovators, and warriors. No empire can destroy our spirit, and no tragedy can break our resolve. Across the fleet, humans celebrated in their own quiet ways. Some cheered, others shed tears, and many simply stared at the stars in awe. They had accomplished what no one thought possible. They had turned grief into strength, fear into courage, and loss into triumph. As the human armada began its return journey, liberated colonies sent messages of gratitude and solidarity. Eden Prime's memory was honored across the galaxy, and new alliances were formed with species that had witnessed humanity's courage. Humanity's place among the stars had been secured, not through conquest but through determination, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. Alina watched the stars stretch before them, thinking of the future. Humanity had faced the darkest hours and emerged victorious. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Humans were not weak, humans were not predictable, and humans never forgot those they fought for. The massacre of Eden Prime had sparked the rise of a new power, one that would defend, inspire, and shape the future of countless worlds. And as the Resolute led the fleet home, humanity's journey continued, stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Eden Prime would be remembered. Humanity would endure, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.